Okay, hi everyone. So I see the agenda doc is being inked out here. Let me
Just
improve it.
accept everything. I rotated the.
Yeah, no. It's good. Okay, great. You moved it down, I assume. Right, so we have a template, perfect. And this is the old one, perfect. Okay. So I think in terms of topics for today, Nimrod is filling up some updates. That would be good. I think we can get up everybody up to speed with what the team is doing. That would be good. And then we can open up maybe small topics that people want to raise. I see Yanis is here. How are you? Thanks for joining.
Hello, hello. Nice to be here. Thanks, Guy, for reminding me. Hi,
Yeah,
everyone.
sorry for the short notice as well, but we do it weekly. You're always welcome, of course, to join. And the reason I invited you already was because there's an integration into the project you're involved in with from IBM. You're working on an open source project called Data Lifecycle Framework, and DLF for short.
Yeah.
And
So
you just integrated NooBaa, so NooBaa caching. That's
yeah. We can talk next week, right, in more details, right? I'm just putting the link on the
yeah,
on the messages, right? Yeah. I'm basically here to talk more about the 271
yeah,
on this one. If
yeah.
since I have you here, I have these issues with the minikube that it's a good
Perfect.
opportunity to bring up.
No, it's
Okay,
great.
joking.
This is for it. Okay, so
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Um, let's go. So Nimrod, do you want to start with a couple of updates? I'll put the link in the agenda. Oh, so I'll put the link to the agenda doc first of all, because I don't know if you have it. If you can always use it, or you can see what I'm sharing. That's okay as well. And let me take the issue. Nimrod, do you want to take it with updates or somebody else?
Yes, sure. I can start. So just a short update on the CI for the NooBaa project. I don't know how many of you noticed, but there are some issues with the Travis service. Travis is something that a lot of the open source project use. They are having some funding issues, which results in unstable service to the project. So we just, in the last couple of days, we moved everything that we had on top of Travis to run on GitHub Actions. Today, I can say that we are back to the same. We have all the tests and everything that was running on Travis running as a GitHub action. So we are over that. And I will also remove the triggers to Travis. I removed the required passing of the tests on Travis, and I moved it on the PRs. I mean, to the GitHub actions. It's very similar. You can link. You get a link from the PR. You can go in. You can see the logs. You can see what's failing. Nothing really changed. Just the platform that hosts the run of those services. So just a notification. Regarding content, I think that last week we merged. Genia is here. I'm not seeing him. He merged the indexes PR for Postgres, which is a big milestone, and we have the upgrade PR, which Jackie is working on as a work in progress. We still need to fix some things, but just like an hour before the meeting, right, Jackie? You wrote that everything passed. Yeah, we have a bug that we need to fix. But the whole process passed.
Not everything, but yeah, well, exactly.
So that's great news.
It moved. The data moved, so that's good. And we still have issues. Seems like something mainly about the IOStats that I talked with Jenny is on it.
So can you describe again what worked? What did you do before? What did you do after?
I did like a very minor test. I started with with Mongo, I uploaded around, I don't know, 30 objects, started to do the upgrade process, and in the other end, I got a Postgres with at least the objects in the database. I couldn't download them because currently I can't read system because of this issue of the schema. So that's
Okay.
the status. I think it will fix this schema issues. Probably we can start and work with S3 and see that it's working. I hope. That's it.
Cool.
Yep.
And is it, by the way, is it also from the operator, right? So it's all coming from just update
right.
of the image, right? And that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's running a job. Maybe.
So the operator is doing it, right? I mean, you just, in order to trigger the update, you just update the operator image, and that's it for your.
The operator. My test is I'm changing the operator image, the DB type to Postgres, and changing
DB type, right.
the DB image to Postgres image, and that's it. And then.
And you do it in a specific order, so you need to first upgrade, let the upgrade complete.
I'm doing everything in one change. I'm changing everything, and
yeah,
and it goes. I think it makes sense. It will be like that in the upgrade. So
my only question is, what will it work if I just upgrade and not change DB type?
If you won't change the DB type, it will start Mongo, so nothing will happen.
Right, but the operator will keep the existing database, and the code with the existing with the new version is compatible to work with the data. So
it checks if the DB type has changed, if we have already an STS stateful set of Mongo, and then it starts.
And then if I change, so let's assume I do the upgrade, let the upgrade complete first.
Okay.
And then change DB type. Will that apply the new database migration and do the migration as well?
I think so. I'm working currently with the new operating image all the time. So
yeah.
But
so it will reconcile anyway in that sense.
Yeah, I think so.
So okay. in the new image, you change the DB type to Postgres, right? So this is what triggering the upgrade.
No,
changing the operator image doesn't supposed to change anything. I'm just changing the DB type and
then the spec, the NooBaa spec.
Yeah, and the core image and that's what's causing it to start. But of course, we need to test more. Right?
Liran, I think Liran's question is if it's enough to change the image, and then the image has, because it's a newer image, it will have the new DB type Postgres being hard-coded into the image. And the answer is no, it's not hard-coded to replace the database just by upgrading. You need to specify that you want to use a different database.
But the default will be, I think,
the default if you will not specify, I don't know what it should be, because it should probably be Mongo actually.
It is Mongo. It is Mongo. It will stay Mongo for now.
Okay.
But okay.
So only changing the DB type will start the migration.
And if we want to deploy by default with Postgres, we need to just specify that in the spec, right? Or we said also support a way where the operator will take a default from env to override the default. That's another option we did with other defaults.
Yeah, I think that's currently the situation. We have a default. I can check, but
we have a default. We do have a default.
We have a default which is Mongo, right? So
yeah.
I mean, if we can specify the default to be to come from an env variable versus be assumed to be hard coded, right? And then each platform can can configure the operator to have a default by specifying this env in the operator. Yeah, in our case, we'll use the OLM, to set the env for the operator this way, and we will get Postgres by default. right?
So the default now is written in a DB type in the options go. So it's only a default for the CLI, right?
It's not related to just CLI, no.
Ah, okay. So there is the default in the option go.
There is a
But-
default, that's for sure. I don't know if we have an end variable that holds the.
That's what I'm trying to push to. So that's for OpenShift, where we would like to set this by default to work in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
We want to be able to set that environment as to the operator, right? We want to push this as an environment variable to the operator.
Yeah, that sounds like.
Are you getting
minor
to
change, but-
why I'm saying that? Otherwise, you would have to ask every operator, such as OpenShift container storage operator, to do the work of reconciling that into the spec and things like that. But if this is the default, if this is how we want to set up the operator itself to behave, then this is something we might want to configure in the operator deployment already.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
The PR is open. I think we can have the discussion there. It's worth to have it there. I'm not saying here not, but so we won't forget anything. So we can sum up and write a comment on the PR.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you should also follow up and see when this gets to integrate into an environment like OpenShift, how do you set it up, and if it makes sense to have an environment control that. I think this is. I mean, it makes sense to me. If you see this as a good, good way forward, then maybe go ahead. If not, you can just ignore it. I mean, it's just a way of integrating, I think.
Yep. I think we can continue the discussion on the PR. I agree. I'm not saying no, yes. I'm just saying.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I'm saying I don't mind. It should just work for these environments. Okay, and I think env is the environment tool, right, to control that. Okay, cool. Go ahead. Sorry for stepping in.
Oh, it's okay. We had Romi's PR on regarding the KMS and the encryption. So the rotation support, we had it merged also, I think last week, if I'm not mistaken, which leaves us only with which is now what Romi is working on, the actual calls to the API, to the Vault API, to retrieve the master CAC. Right now it's supported via secret, but rotation is supported now, which is also nice. And the last thing, which is something that I would like to hear, because I think Yanis talked about it, and we talked about it and promised it, and we also talked about it with Quentin and Patrick, is the ability to control namespace, resources, and buckets via the Kubernetes control plane. And Romi posted the PR, both on the operator side and on the core, because we need some controls on the core to create and report back. We did have some questions there. Guy, I think you raised the question mostly about the CLI flow. But it would be good to get input. I'm not expecting to get them now, obviously, because I don't think you read the PRs. But if you can go and give us some input, it would be great, because you are our customers right now. So
maybe it will be useful for the rest of the people to get a few minutes of overview on these new APIs.
Yeah. So Romi, I'll let you do that, and I'll just paste the PRs in the doc, so we'll have the reference.
Yeah, sure.
Romi, do you want me to open it, or you want to share your screen?
You can open it. We can discuss what you said in the comment.
My comment is about CLI, right? That's yeah. I mean, it's nice, but I wouldn't make it the most important piece of it. I think it's the PR itself for for the structure of the CRDs and all that is probably more more interesting for to get feedback. I mean, the CLI is nice also, but yeah. Let me open the link. Should I go to the operator first?
Yeah, the core has just a 4-line deletion. That's really important.
Okay.
Okay,
So I'm showing that. Let me do my overview. Or, kind of look out here. Okay. Right. So we have a bunch of, or not a bunch of, but some changes to the types.
We can really skip the namespace store because it's the same as backing store. Just I deleted the PV pool and GCP, which that we are not supporting for namespace. And the really interesting part is the bucket class, as you found. So yeah, I just added the namespace policy, like we had the placement policy. And as we said in the docs, that we'll have a single namespace policy and a multi and a cache. And we have those fields in it too. For each one, a resource for single and a read and write and a hub resource and TTL for cache. That's pretty much it. Most of the changes were in how to manipulate the namespace policy when for updating or creating it, setting it to NooBaa, and not a lot of changes. That's pretty much it. Just I knew that the CLI part you will have comments on it, and what I intended to do in specifying it to types is just to print the help better, and also I changed it to be a pointer, the placement policy.
This one, yes.
Yeah.
Optional.
Yeah. Maybe you have questions that I can answer on.
No, so I can understand. So what you're saying is this now, that we are now optionally including either policy, right? Which makes sense. I think what let me try and figure out why we didn't do that before, right? This was an object, the placement policy here. Let me try and find it. Where is it? This is it. So I think the reason was that the object itself was just showing an empty array when it was unused in essence, or we didn't have it unused, but if we ever had it unused, we didn't put it as an optional end pointer here because it was also an empty array, just an object with an empty tiers array. That's another way of representing something empty, but doesn't matter. Both work, and I think the model for that we did later for optionally including specs makes sense here as well. So it seems fine. Yeah, I'm just wondering if the Kubernetes API is ignorant. I mean, it doesn't care that this changed, right? For JSON and YAML, this is just an object. Just for Go, this is being decoded differently, I think. So that should be fine as well. Right. So yeah, I mean, you could omit empty on anything basically. I think even in JavaScript, this is our default, right? If you have an empty, not an empty array, which is unique here, but a lot of times when we have an undefined things, we don't encode them into the to the structures. Right. You can add it whenever you really want to omit it, right? But the question is, did you see a reason why you needed it in this case?
I wanted to omit that part, not just tiers, the whole placement policy when I'm creating a namespace policy. And by default, it
Right.
included it. So I wanted to delete it.
Right, but oh, but if you just put a nil pointer here, right? Then it won't.
I think it didn't work. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I think it's fine. I mean, I prefer omitting empty things if possible. But the reason why somebody would say this is a counter or there's a downside to it is that when you omit empty things, the entity itself is not describing a lot its options very well. You have to go to documentation to understand what is the structure. For example, you see when you see a spec of things and a lot of fields are optional and they are empty, omitted when empty, then you can see like a spec which is completely empty and everything is defaulted, right? And you don't have no idea what you can toggle with. So that's the counter view of why you might want to keep things even when they're empty in the entity. But I mean, it's kind of a weak argument. I wouldn't use it too aggressively. I would just omit whenever it doesn't make sense to include things. Certainly when they're, I wouldn't include like a nil thing here to include an empty like multi-namespace policy when I'm not even using the namespace type versus the multi-type, right? That doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what we're saying is that we have a single one resource, a multi, which is a read-write, which is what we do today. In the namespace, we call it merge in the code, in the core, and the cache. And cache is a cache spec here, which is, right, so both these and a hub resource. Why do you separate it to a spec? Is it somehow being used in other contexts?
Actually, the prefix is just it's optional now, and we don't use it. So I can delete it and keep just the TTL if you want, if you think it's better.
Oh, actually, I didn't mind the prefix yet. I just wondered why separate another object here for between another layer of here's a cache spec versus this is already a cache namespace policy. Do you reuse cache spec somewhere as a structure?
No, I don't think I don't have a solid
reason to separate.
Yeah, no, I can merge it.
Okay. I think if there's no strong reason, maybe keep it flat. We'll keep it simple. So TTL is great, and also I would of course. So you're saying it's not optional, but it's like we defined in the APIs, where 0 means something and -1 means something, and things like that. So you just pass through the same number to the API.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe worth just even if it's repeating this semantic of this number, I think it's worth having it here because this is where the source of these structures is, right? So, and this these things go into. I'm not sure if the comment here goes into the generated description of the CRD. I think so. So it might be very descriptive if you put your how do you set this number correctly, right? Set it to 0 to get infinite TTL, for example. That makes a lot of difference here.
Okay.
Okay. And let's check it. I think I'm right. I think if you take a look at this generated CRD, you'll see that all of his descriptions are
Yeah.
here it is, right? It's just the comment from the code. So okay. Any other questions or comments? We didn't just say about prefix, but we're not supporting it yet in core, so maybe
Or
defer.
another if
Yeah.
I can remove it.
Defer it for now. When we have we want to add it, we can change then. Okay, more questions about the bucket class at least. Okay, and the not the bucket class. The other one was a namespace store. Where we need the types. Well, there should be types. Oh, namespace store types. And you said it's relatively the same, but without the ones that we didn't support yet for namespace. However, is it a complete copy or is it somehow reusing the same specs? Is it reusing the specs from the? I think so, right?
I think so too. Just a second, check it.
Yeah, I don't see him. I don't see them in this file, so for sure they are from the same module, right? Because it's one file next to the other here, so they can share it. In any case, these are public, but I mean, it's public. We didn't need to import. It's just in the same module. So yeah, so we are reusing the same specs for defining the targets, which is good. This is what I wanted to make sure just in this change. One thing I'm not sure how it will if there will be any difference between how we configure a resource for namespace versus a resource for storage only, chunk storage, then block storage, right? And then how do we represent it? But I don't have an example, but we just want to, maybe at first we will we will expand the existing one and have optional things, but at one point we might say, well, this is too much and we actually need to have separated structures, or maybe some with some commonality between them. But I don't think that's the case right now. For now, we're pretty good with having the same.
Okay.
And the store type is a type also imported, basically. So it's so the type itself here can also encode, for example, GCS, just because it's reusing the same type field.
Right.
But maybe this is a good thing. It's a simple thing also to separate. Because each one should have its own, at least enumerated types. It's not a big thing to replicate between them and edit whenever each one has its support. So
okay.
To and this type, like. Okay, cool. This is I think this is straightforward. I'm not going into all of the bits, but I didn't go over the statuses and all that, but I'm pretty sure it's taking the same spirit of backing store statuses, right? Good. Okay. What else? Do you want to direct us to something else we should look at in this PR?
I actually just wanted to discuss about the CLI options there.
Yep. This is nothing, right? This is just adding the new command. Add namespace stores the controllers. Let me mark these up. Where is it? This is it. No, is it this one?
No.
No. So where should I go?
To bucket class.
Oh, you're right. The CLI for bucket class.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
did you change it already?
I changed it to placement bucket class and namespace bucket class. Instead of regular, I actually think that that it's better than putting it in a flag, because first of all, I didn't get I tried your command and it didn't create two policies. It's just got an error on it. So I think it actually protects us from getting this situation you described. With the
you mean protecting us from having the two policies?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I want to be protected. I think I even need it in one. I mean, so how do I? So let's think about it for a second. If when I want to configure caching, right? I want to have a namespace resource to represent the hub, but I also want to have a placement policy locally to represent the cache storage.
Okay.
So how should I go and define that? So what I was trying to say in the comment was this: it's either that we take the bucket class CLI, and I'm not talking about even the CRDs for now, but the CLI. When I want to create a new bucket class, that the input or the type that I provide is is based on the use case. Say I want to create a cache bucket class or a class for cache buckets, right? And then this would be one way I say what I want to get by this CLI action. Or on the other hand, maybe I want the CLI to just provide me with simple I don't know, just a simple way to configure whatever I need on the bucket class, right? Which is it's getting to the this was what I suggested, and I think you're right that it's getting to a very fine grain control for the CLI, which is you can achieve with kubectl or whatever. Not that it's easy, but you can get it done. So it can be done, of course. And then the reason to go to the other option, which means the CLI would automate use cases, right? I want to achieve to get a bucket class that looks like this. So maybe that's the goal for this operation. And the other thing, I just from naming perspective, I think you understand, right? This creates a command that you need to issue like this. So this repeats here, like the backing story is repeated for. I mean, just it's not that it's not correct, but it's kind of a repetitive thing. Maybe like another thing could be. So it might be a type. We're saying we want a placement
policy or namespace policy, right?
Right, but then the question is if this is what we're suggesting that the CLI would expose here, that you just use the CLI with, which is what I said, right? I just said it like this, but that displacement and namespace, or say this. So I suggested this, but you can also do it otherwise. And then there's a question if this is how we want to represent, when I actually want to create a bucket class for caching, how do I really want to issue the CLI command? If this makes sense, then yeah, let's do this. Yanis, a quick question to you. In your case, you integrate with CRDs, right? So you have a controller.
No.
Okay, so what do you use?
Curl with the REST API.
Okay, but eventually you update the CRs, right? You use the Kubernetes API directly. You don't use it tools, or you do?
No, I use the noobaa RPC. So I have the method somewhere, but yeah, I use the noobaa RPC.
You mean the CLI tool itself? Are you calling it? Are you for no?
No. So inside the Go code, I have a REST client. Okay, give me a second. I will send you
a Kubernetes REST client.
No,
yeah.
no.
Okay.
noobaa.
The REST client. I got it. So you're talking. So you import it, right?
Let me see, because no, I think it's just a matter of calling the REST endpoint, right? You have an RPC endpoint that someone can directly call, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the noobaa-core, right?
One second, I'm opening my code. I really don't remember.
I think that yes, because now we did not provide a way to create cache, so this is the only option.
Okay, got it.
Yes,
so for sure.
Going forward, I'm guessing I would provide a better way than to call our RPC, which is the CRD.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, Guy, here's this piece of code is just I read the auth token and I make the noobaa management service 443 RPC, and then just so this is the skeleton for the client, right? And I pass the methods and the corresponding API there, right? So you need API, method, auth token, and params, and then that's how I do it.
Make requests. Okay, great, got it. So but in your next step, you'd like to use the CRDs.
Yeah. When the CRDs are ready, we'll go and import CRDs. It's better. Yeah, it's more native, Kubernetes native way. Yeah.
Right. So for your use case, it will not matter like the discussion about CLI, but we're we're trying to figure out what to do.
I would prefer to make this a bit more native, right? So instead of calling directly the RPC commands, maybe it would be better with the CRDs, right? To interface with CRDs. It won't make much difference if it's, I wouldn't call the CLI, right? Within the Go code, right? I would prefer CRDs as an improvement, but for the time being, it's the REST call directly. It's fine.
Right. Okay. So, clearly, if developers use it, it will be a YAML of some sort, or Kubernetes API and Go code and all that. But if we're trying to automate using just scripting and tools for for day-to-day, I guess, work. That's kind of where we looked at the CLI as our automation, or our simple automation tool. We never thought it will do all the automation, but certainly just help with repeated actions, I guess.
Yeah, I agree, right? I mean, it's what. So since I'm writing an operator, right, and you do it inside Go, you want something different, right? And it's different. So the CLI, I work with it just for testing purposes, to see how you would create as a user. But yeah, if you want to automate, also it might be handy. But within the code, within the Go lang, I mean, it's better. Yeah. With CRDs. Yeah.
So I'm not sure how to how this is best structured. Maybe Romy, we can make some suggestions around it, how this CLI can work. I don't know, and then post it on Slack and see, because there's a bunch of ways where we can, not bunch, but like 2-3 ways we can define how this CLI will create cache buckets, for example.
Yeah, I didn't think about that option. So yeah, we need to add it somehow.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just write here maybe this blurb, and this doesn't make any sense, but and then just that we so for caching cache bucket classes, we need both policies. So how to do? Okay, so just a point to think about and get maybe more people involved to like between concrete options, and then this will be easier to decide. That's my take.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Something else in the PR you want to highlight, or somebody else also?
Not from my side, I think. Maybe the OLM or something. I just copied from other fields, but
right. So this is this is representing the new CRD.
Yeah.
For namespace store inside the OLM package, and we go over all the fields to represent them also in the automated sort of generated console that OLM can provide. Okay, that's okay. I mean, this is something that I don't know if you saw this ever being generated, but there's a way where the OLM creates forms like this, where you it generates a form for this CRD. So you need to specify what type of fields this is, right? It's a text versus a secret, etc.
Great, but I'm not sure. I need to get a feedback on it. So maybe from the Y team or.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's my point. First of all, I think you just need to see it. I think that's the first step. If it looks.
We're working on it now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to guide you how to see it yet, but you need to look it up. But I think once you see it, you know if it makes sense first of all, and then then go from there. It's good. You don't have to understand all the details first, but just a copy paste for that would work to begin with, and then testing.
Guy?
Yeah.
We're almost on top of the hour, and Yannis had a special request to do this, I think, on the issue. Sorry. So we can come back later if we want to, but let's do a switch.
Sure.
Topics.
Let me jump to the issue. 1 second. Thanks for the time check. Okay. So this issue was old.
Yeah, after
like
the upgrade.
The initial.
Yeah, after the upgrade. I think after the mini flag introduced for Minikube, I think it takes like 10 to 15 minutes to start on Minikube, which it's a gives a bad impression a bit that you're wondering if it works, right? So I don't know how to I would try to debug myself, right? But I need some clues or on why would
I can actually comment on that. Basically, most of the time is spent on generating the what's the name for it, that we do at the start of each process in order to create encryption.
You mean the
entropy?
Entropy, yeah.
Yeah, the entropy. So I have done a little bit of testing regarding that. If we decide to change Mini, to adjust it a little bit, like double the CPU cycles, not exactly double, go from 100 to 250 on the request and limits for CPUs, we cut it in half. We'll cut the time in half. I tested it and it works.
But is it really like the CPU is being worked out during that time, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Typically during the entropy phase. You can see it in the log. If you trace the log during the installation, you can see that it's just waiting there like for almost 5 minutes just for entropy, and you do it on the core for 4 processes. So this is like it's partially parallel, but because the CPU is working hard, it's not really parallel. So you are waiting for each process. It's basically for hosted agents, for core, and for what's the other one? BG, background workers, and you also wait for it at the end on the endpoint side when we run the endpoint. So it's 4 times.
So is the limit hard coded for Mini?
The limits for Mini are hard coded, but we have other flags you can deploy without Mini. You can deploy with setting specifically the limits
custom resources.
Yeah, it's custom resources with a different option.
I think let's discuss the Mini one first. I think that's a good thing to nail, because I think Yanis was pointing out that it's a bad experience, right? You come to Minikube, you use the Mini, and it doesn't work well. So that's not what we wanted to achieve by this flag, right? And the whatever we say doesn't matter, because the entropy, or the VMs don't have entropy and things like that, doesn't matter. And we kind of need to just start the services and solve it when it needs to be solved, right? I think that's my take about it. I have another way of that I've been configuring my Minikube to that was to use something a little bit different than what Mini is configuring, so that I'm using like an empty resources object, and by that it's like there's no request and no limit. And for Minikube, this is basically working out just by saying, well, whatever, just start the process, don't put any limits, don't put any the scheduler will take some default maybe, but will not essentially allocate memory specifically for this. If it overflows the amount of memory we can actually use, it will either go to paging or whatever, but it won't do what production systems do. But okay, that's fine.
We have a problem with that. The problem is on the endpoint side, because we have buffer on the endpoints for the semaphore that are limited based on the limit. If you give it a free hand, it might happen. It already happened in internal QE testing.
It takes the host. We take the host.
You assume that the Minikube is not running anything on the same host, and you might get. I don't know.
But what will happen? Let's think about it. What can happen if I take memory when I don't have a limit?
I'm trying to remember what happened to QE when they tested it inside the Red Hat, but something happened when they used an empty object. They had a bug on it.
Okay,
because
maybe.
Different configuration they used empty objects, and we had a problem with that.
Yeah. So maybe first of all, it will be interesting if you can track the issue and let us know what it was, because I've been using it at least like locally for what I was doing. It didn't seem to bump into doesn't work, but of course it wasn't a full test, right? It was just developer kind of test and running things locally. So maybe if you try to like overload this setup like this, it might not work very well. I agree. That's not the intention, but I'm not sure.
I remember, Guy. I know what's the issue. The issue is that if you use it, we deploy HPA, horizontal pod autoscaler, on top of endpoints. And horizontal pod autoscaler does not behave correctly when you have limits that are any kind of resource configuration that is just an empty object. It cannot retrieve metrics for that pod, and it just doesn't work. So you will get a lot of events on the HPA, and the HPA will not work. It will just say that it cannot acquire any kind of metrics. It is a known issue in Kubernetes, but they decided to not tackle it for the latest Kubernetes version.
So I hear that. I think this is again. It's not a. I mean, it's not good to have this functionality not work, but it's also. I mean, yeah, I have an endpoint. It's okay. I am not scaling because I didn't specify my. Like maybe we should be more clear about it, right? That when the operator sees that this is what we did, it like writes an event saying, well, I cannot. I cannot even create your HPA or something like that. I don't know, something. But maybe it still makes sense to just have like an unlimited setup. Just start the processes. It's more of a it's more similar to how Docker would run these, right? Anyway, this is about the mini option. Yeah.
There is another problem.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what else you are running on your Minikube, because basically, if you run only NooBaa on your Minikube, it's not a problem. But if you are running something else, like an application to try to test against NooBaa, then you have a problem, because if that application defines limits and requests, they will get killed immediately when you try to take resources. So we should take that into consideration also.
Why do you think the application will get killed?
Because you have two applications that are resident on the same node, on your same Kubernetes cluster, on the same node. One of them is unlimited, the other one is limited, and you are starting to have problem with that.
So of course there will be eventually a problem, but I'm saying not to begin with, right?
Yes, not to begin with. Yes, not to begin with.
So eventually, I agree. I mean, it's not a production setup. It's we also set up resources and limits to be matching because we want the QoS classes to be, not burstable and be persist or whatever the name is. Yeah, but then if you take the application and the application is specifying resources and the NooBaa pods will be burstable, then I would expect the NooBaa pods to be killed in some way. But I don't know. I mean, it's a setup.
I meant that the endpoint will be killed, not the application.
Right. So I mean, it depends. Like if you set your environment to be very exact on resources, then you get a very exactly behaving environment. But I'm not sure if what we're trying to do with Minikube is this.
So basically, I think maybe it could be. I don't have the full context here, right? So maybe if it's. I think Minikube is a nice way, to introduce new users and people who just want to give it a go. I think I would use Minikube, right? It's just that maybe in this scenario you can have a sort of lookup on the Minikube itself, right? And the set. I'm sure you can extract somehow the. So if I start Minikube with 1 gigabyte or 200 megabytes of RAM, then of course it won't work, right? But if I start Minikube with specific options, right, we might have a way, since we have CLI, right? So since you have CLI, so you do it from the host, right? So basically, maybe we can
read the node, for example, API.
Yeah. So something like that.
There's no problem to get the information about the host itself, right? Using that. So we can get the memory.
Some rule of thumb that if there is a need for a strict limit, then set it to 20%, 30%, or 40%. Some rule of thumb about.
Right.
I just want to add that another option is just to give us an option on the CLI when deploying to have a no entropy option. If we have a no entropy option and we don't have to generate entropy, everything will just run very fast.
For quick tests, I mean, for just giving it a go, I think it would be fine, right? I don't know, Guy.
Yeah, I think we can. So first of all, I don't know if a no entropy, maybe we can defer. The entropy.
Defer Guy, because this entropy situation takes 100% CPU. So from the resources that it has. So basically the problem is that you get throttled when we have limits. So you'll get throttled later on. So you might pass the installation phase, but you still have no. We have no.
No. It's not correct. I'll tell you why. Because entropy is increased as the VM is running. The more the VM runs, so you don't need to pay for that in CPU if you defer that. Anyway,
Okay.
that's. I think we will have to follow up on that issue as well. Maybe Oad and Yanis, maybe you can we can all and the rest, of course, but maybe you can put your suggestions here in the comments as well, and then we can go over that next time and see if we actually want to take a shot at it and do some change.
Sure.
I think.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I will add. I mean, yeah, just I can add some comments there. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So we're out of time. It's we've spent a lot of discussion on different things and no specific topic today, but maybe next time we'll have a more concise agenda for showing ongoing features. I'll keep you posted. Next time will probably not be next week, so beware. Okay, guys, I'm gonna stop everything and we'll see you next. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.